Previously, in Journey to the Death of the Universe, during the episode The First Stars and Galaxies, we discussed how the first stars and galaxies formed and how the universe saw light for the first time. Today, we're going to talk about how everything around us came into being: the sun, earth, moon, and everything else in the birth of our solar system. Around 4.6 billion years ago, our solar system began its journey within a vast, swirling cloud of gas and dust known as the solar nebula. This cloud was likely the remnant of earlier generations of stars that had lived and died, enriching the surrounding space with heavier elements through supernova explosions. These elements, carbon, oxygen, silicon, and iron, would become the building blocks of planets, moons, and other celestial bodies in our solar system. A nearby supernova, or perhaps the gravitational forces within the Milky Way, may have triggered the collapse of a region within the solar nebula. As this region contracted under its own gravity, it began to spin faster and flatten into a disk. At the center of this disk, most of the material gathered and heated up, eventually igniting nuclear fusion. This marked the birth of our sun, a new star shining brightly in the young universe. While the sun was forming, further out in the nebula, in a cooler region, gas and dust began to accumulate to form Jupiter. As a gas giant, Jupiter quickly gathered a large amount of hydrogen and helium, the most abundant elements in the nebula. Jupiter's core likely formed first, made up of rock, metal, and ice. Once this core was sufficiently massive, it attracted a vast envelope of gas from the surrounding nebula, making Jupiter grow rapidly. In the inner regions of the solar nebula, where temperatures were higher, rocky planets began to form. These planets, including Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, were composed primarily of metal and silicate materials. In contrast, farther from the sun, where it was cooler, gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn formed, accumulating large amounts of hydrogen and helium. Beyond them, icy bodies like Uranus, Neptune, and the dwarf planets took shape, rich in water, methane, and ammonia. While many of the solar system's moons are captured asteroids or smaller celestial bodies that were drawn in by the gravitational pull of their parent planets, Earth's moon is an exception. Formed from the debris of a colossal impact between the early Earth and a Mars-sized body named Theia, our moon has a unique origin compared to the captured moons of gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn. Some of these larger moons, such as Ganymede and Titan, were not captured, but instead formed from the same material that surrounded their planets during the early solar system, differentiating them from the smaller captured moons. As the planets grew, their gravitational influence increased, allowing them to clear their orbits of remaining debris. Smaller bodies that didn't become part of planets were either ejected from the solar system, fell into the sun, or became part of the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, or the Kuiper belt and Oort cloud beyond Neptune. During this time, the sun's solar wind, a stream of charged particles, blew away much of the remaining gas in the solar nebula, leaving behind a more stable and settled solar system. By around 4.5 billion years ago, the major structures of the solar system were in place, with planets, moons, asteroids, and comets all orbiting the newly formed sun. As Earth cooled, it developed a solid crust, and volcanic activity released gases that formed the early atmosphere. Water, delivered by comets and possibly through outgassing from the planet's interior, began to accumulate on the surface, forming the first oceans. These oceans, combined with a stable atmosphere, created the conditions necessary for the emergence of life. So this is the birth of the solar system. In the next episode, we will explore the origin of life on Earth, how you, me, plants, and all other life forms evolved, from single-celled organisms to the most complex and intelligent beings. So, you're watching Journey to the Death of the Universe, Episode 3. See you in the next one.